Hey ladies, Diddy, Garth Brooks, and Doug Emhoff walk into a club and they ask for your number. What do you tell them? Antoine Dotson has the answer.
And help.
Well, obviously we have a rapist in Lincoln Park. He's climbing in your windows. He's snatching your people up, trying to rape them. So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
The attacker got loose and went out the upstairs window, but he did leave something behind.
We got your T-shirt. You done left fingerprints and all. You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
All right, so that's Antoine Dotson's message to Diddy, Doug Emhoff, and Garth Brooks. And we'll be talking about that. Also, there's plenty of news to get to. This is a story that I didn't touch last week that I want to touch on. Obviously, this is a cultural issue. Sometimes I avoid the cultural issues, not because I don't think they're necessarily important. I just love politics, and I love how, I try to marry my biblical worldview with my politics and share that. But cultural issues obviously play a part and should play a part in that. So I want to talk about the Diddy thing. I would also say that typically what I do, for those of you that have heard me before, I don't like cases playing out in the public. No matter how bad they are, no matter how evil they are, our system is that you're innocent until proven guilty. And when cases are tried in the public, I don't believe that happens. So regardless of how evil a person is, in this case with Diddy, if these allegations are true, and apparently there's been rumors swirling and people have known for years that they are, if that is in fact the case, this guy is the epitome of evil. The only reason I'm willing to talk about this specific case is because many of the alleged victims came forward to the police officers or to police, to FBI even, and for whatever reason, it didn't seem to go beyond that up until now. So that is the only reason I'm willing to talk about this in public. I'm telling you, I stay away. And I know a lot of people in conservative media won't do it. Obviously, there used to be court TV. Nancy Grace has blown up with it and all that kind of stuff. But I stay away for the most part of talking about very public crimes because I don't believe that the perpetrators can get a fair trial. So anyway, that's that. But let me just share this. Let me talk about Diddy. Let me talk about Doug Emhoff. Let me talk about Garth Brooks. And let me talk about the feminist movement. Now, there was a podcast that Kamala Harris was on just this past weekend, and we'll get into that a little later. But I'm going to say this, and I know this is going to upset a lot of people. I know this is going to upset particularly feminists on the left, but it is feminists on the left that have emboldened people like Diddy, that have emboldened, if the allegations are true, the Doug Emhoff and Garth Brooks of the world, if the allegations are true. Carl, how can you say that? Are you blaming the woman? No, I'm blaming left-wing feminism. Here's the problem with left-wing feminism. They don't understand that men and women are different. They don't take that into account. They think that they're being empowered or they're empowering themselves by sleeping around like men, and it simply doesn't work. Pro-choice women, and these left-wing feminists, again, are emboldening the Diddys of the world. Men, all you're teaching men is that men can have unlimited sex without consequence. That's what left-wing feminism has taught men. That's all they've taught men how to be emotional, how to emote, how not to, men don't have to mature anymore, thanks to, in large part, I believe, to the left-wing feminist movement. Men don't have to be responsible. They don't have to worry about taking care of their kids, taking care of their responsibilities, because the lady says, the left-wing feminist says, you can sleep with me. There's no consequences. I'll just kill the baby. And the man that is no longer a man, hardly in today's era, says, good, I can just walk away from this. And that's what you have with these left-wing men. You have Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman or whatever he's called, that it basically said, Jen Psaki interviewed him and said, you're this new type of masculinity. No, that's not a new type of masculinity. What women have created on the left, the Jen Psakis of the world, by even offering such a this new masculinity idea, is all you're doing is weakening men. That's all you're doing. And you're causing more women to be abused and used. These left-wing feminists, in my opinion, have literally played a major part, besides big government programs, in destroying the family. When women, I wrote a column years ago Ladies, close your legs and watch morality spread. Now, I'm not letting men off the hook. I'm just trying to let you know what type of power that you have over men. And it's funny to me, it's crazy to me that left-wing feminists don't exercise this particular power. It's absolutely, it drives me nuts. It drives me insane. You tell a man, hey, sleep with me. No responsibility whatsoever. And then you blame the man for toxic masculinity. And all you're doing is causing this so-called toxic masculinity. Actually, I don't even believe in that term. I believe that people are toxic. But generally speaking, I do believe that left-wing men, beta males that fall for these left-wing feminist women are essentially toxic because they're not men. They've been taught that they can be just as emotional as women. They've been taught that they don't have to be responsible for their actions. They've been taught that they don't have to take care of their kids. They've been taught that they're not needed, and they believe it. And now they don't know what the heck to be. So you have men trying to be women because being a man is no longer enough in today's society. And it's crazy. It's insane. Now, Diddy's dirt is Diddy's dirt. Doug Emhoff's dirt is Doug Emhoff's dirt. Garth Brooks, if that's true, it's his dirt. And by the way, Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, this is a man that allegedly, according to the Daily Mail, the UK Daily Mail, I believe, he was dating a woman who happens to be a New York attorney. I believe they were in France at the Cannes Film Festival, and apparently, somewhat in a drunken stupor, he slapped the lady so hard, she did a spin. And apparently her friends were witnesses to this, or at least she told them about it immediately following. And apparently she hit him back as well. Now, this is the same man that knocked up his nanny. And guys, listen, let me say this. I know that men fall and you put yourself in precarious positions like that. This is what women don't understand about men. Men are very sexually aroused. They're aroused, visibly and very easily. All right. And I know there's some women out there that are probably just as bad as men, but men 1-to-1 is gonna be typically more sexually or easily aroused as opposed to women. You don't have to do much work to get a man aroused. Men are just naturally that way. And so I blame the feminist movement in part for damaging a lot of men as they exist today. You can demand more. And I'm so tired of this nonsense. It's amazing to me because what Kamala Harris is running on is the answer to everything is abortion. Oh, the answer to the economy is abortion. The answer to war seems to be abortion. The answer to free speech is abortion. Or she grew up in a middle class home, which is so far from the truth. It's unbelievable. This lady is a fake, a fraud, and she can't make it. All right, she can't make it. She can't even fake it. We'll get into that we'll get into that a little later. And I got plenty of headlines again. I mean, it is October 7th. It's a year. I don't even know how to frame this. A year since at least 1,200 Israelis were murdered by Hamas. And man, it's just it is a solemn day. We'll talk about that a little bit. A lot of headlines that I want to get into, but it is very important to remember that Israel's the little Satan, America is the great Satan. I support Israel wholeheartedly. We'll get into that in just a second, but let me get back to this issue because I've been wanting to opine on this for quite some time. Men and women complement each other. Men and women need each other. If the world was full of women, you'd have no purpose. You wouldn't have a full purpose anyway. The same is true for men. Men need women, women need men. We complement each other. And this feminist movement, again, has totally destroyed women. This feminist movement, in part, has created the Diddies of has created the Diddies or helped to create, let me put it that way, has helped to create the Diddies of the world. Because again, a man doesn't have to be a man. I don't know how this guy, if these allegations are true, this guy was the sexual predator, pervert that he was. And more women didn't stand up until recently. That's insane to me. That is insane to me. And more men, quite frankly. Let's go through some of the details. Let's go through some of the details. I decided I'm going to do this a little differently, Gabe. I'm going to break this down into two segments. Let me just focus on this Diddy thing, and then we'll get into the other news of the day, and just perhaps just break that up into a second podcast, because I've been wanting to cover this, and I know it's a little bit of old news, but we're getting ready to be hit by, what's the name of this hurricane? We got so many hurricanes in Florida. I know I haven't even been paying that much attention, and this thing is shaping up to be a major disaster. Here I am in Central Florida, and I don't even know the name of this thing. What is the name of this thing? Oh, thank you. Hurricane Milton. That's an easy name to remember. I don't know why I keep forgetting it. So those of you that are in the listening audience, please pray for us, and continue to pray for the people that have been impacted by Hurricane Helene. I've got some news on that that I'll share in a little bit. But let me just go through 13 bombshell revelations that this Busby law firm and the AVA law group shared last week in a press conference. And I want to talk about this a little bit. And again, this is my first time sharing this and speaking on this. But here's number one. 25 of the 120 Combs accusers, Sean Puffy Combs or Diddy Combs or whatever the heck he calls himself nowadays, were minors at the time the alleged incidents occurred. So if this is true, absolute bombshell. They are right. One of the attorneys, or Busby law firm, said, one of the spokesman said, when we talk about the ages of the victims, when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. Okay. Quick question. If you're a parent, why do you send your kid around this guy? Who's sending their kid around this guy? I got to be honest with you. I know this may sound crazy. One of the things that I did when God first saved me, all right, I stopped listening. I used to listen to so much rap, and I liked a lot of music, frankly. I would listen to all types of music, but I listened to a lot of rap. I listened to a lot of, West Coast rap, because that's where I'm from. And I listened to some East Coast rap too. I listened to a lot of R&B. I listened to oldies. But I stopped listening to a lot of music. I stopped paying attention to the music industry, which is why I'm so far removed from culture. So I have to read culture to kind of know what's going on in society nowadays, because I just absolutely, it's not something that God has placed in my heart for the most part. But I understand that politics, flows downstream from culture. So now obviously it's something that I have to address, because the culture has taken over even the church in many cases. It's such a sad statement, but it's absolutely true. But 120 of Combs' accusers were minors at the time of the alleged incidents. Where are the parents? This is sickening to me. All right, the youngest, and by the way, if you're listening to this podcast with a kid, I'm going to urge you to make sure you cover the little one's ears, or listen to this on your own time. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble, por favor. All right. And also follow me on all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. Here's number two bombshell. The youngest alleged sex abuse victim of Combs was just 9 years old. Now, again, these cases have not been tried in court. I do want to say that every alleged perpetrator is innocent until proven guilty. I believe that wholeheartedly, even as disgusting and as hard as this is to read. But I want to know what the parents knew. There's no way I would let my kid go around some adult, especially, and be alone, a stranger. I don't care who they are. I don't care what type of status they are. This is baffling to me. This is really baffling to me. And I really believe that this is a part of, I honestly believe this is a part of this whole left wing, this feminist thing, this breaking down the family, as the left has done, where there's just no common sense amongst parents anymore. They don't even know how to raise kids right. I don't know why the heck you would want your kid, 9-year-old kid, being a superstar. And that's not to excuse anything that may have happened. This is disgusting. Honestly, something like this, in my opinion, deserves the death penalty. The Busby law firm said our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. And I'm quoting, this individual who was 9 years old at the time was taken to an audition in New York City with Bad Boy Records, quote unquote. He goes on to say other boys were there to audition as well. All of them were trying to land a record deal. All of them were minors. This 9-year-old individual was sexually abused, allegedly, by Sean Combs and several other people at the studio, and the promise to both his parents and to himself of getting a record deal. So his parents. So I want to know if his parents knew, or if his parents were just oblivious and they're like, oh, it's Sean Puffy Combs, or Sean Diddy Combs, whatever the heck he calls himself. And so nothing would happen. Honestly, I lay a lot of this at if this is true. And I don't assume that this is one of those cases I'm willing to talk about it simply because I found out that so many victims did come forward and report the alleged crimes to the police. I mean, almost immediately. And so when I found that out, I'm like, okay, I don't know why this didn't blow up sooner. Combs allegedly, number 3, made a minor perform fellatio on him. Another minor was told allegedly by Sean Combs that he would make him a star, but needed a visit with him in private about it, away from his parents. Once they were in a private area, allegedly, Mr. Combs made the victim perform fellatio upon him. A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you can get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. But it gets better. For a limited time, they're offering their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. So get their queen size MyPillows for just $18.88, or upgrade to a king for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, or call 800-858-0263 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever. On top of that, receive free shipping on orders over $75. They have never been offered this low before. There are limited quantities at this price, so the limit is $10, and once they're gone, they're gone. So go to mypillow.com or call 800-858-0263 and use promo code Carl to get standard MyPillow. Get the standard MyPillow, for only $14.88. That's the lowest price ever, guys. Don't delay. MyPillow.com, promo code Carl. This makes me think or believe this is so normative in these circles that if this is true, Sean Combs knew, or at least thought, he could get away with this. Because this is what happens in this industry. If these allegations are true, there is no way Sean Combs is alone. And I know over the weekend, apparently there was some type of hotline where 12,000 people called in, or over thereabouts, to say that they had somehow, some way, shape, or form been abused by Sean Combs. I mean, those numbers sound astounding, but you're talking about 30 years of abuse, allegedly. So I guess it's possible with these freak-offs apparently he had. Number 4, Combs' associates allegedly took turns raping a 15-year-old girl. An individual 15-year-old at the time was flown to New York City to attend a party. She was drugged and then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs, where this female individual minor was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her. Now, again, this is absolutely disgusting. These charges, or these crimes, or alleged crimes, were brought up in a civil court. So you do need to understand that. I do need to be clear about this. As disgusting and as hard as this is to read, I do want to be absolutely clear that these are not criminal cases, at least not at this point. But these are civil suits are going to be brought against Diddy, as he's called, I guess. And so these are some of the allegations. Number 5, a pregnant woman was allegedly drugged and raped. Another incident, an individual, this time not a minor, according to this Busby, Busby said, attending a group dinner allegedly with Sean Combs in Miami. She wasn't drinking because she was pregnant, but whatever she drank at the table, apparently, at least according to her, was laced with something, according to the lawyer. She blacked out and she woke up in the same bed again, allegedly with Combs in his mansion in Miami. Parents, clog your children's ears. Her vagina and her anus were torn and sore, according to this pregnant woman. Number 6, most of the alleged victims filed reports with police or hospitals at the time of the incidents. Okay, this is what, in my mind, gave me the permission to do this podcast. I know a lot of people will do it for clickbait, but I happen to believe in the Constitution. I happen to believe in fair trials. I happen to believe that you should be found guilty by a jury of your peers. But if there's a trial that's played out in the public, no matter how big and public the name is, I don't believe you can get a fair trial. At this point, I'll be honest, I don't believe that Diddy could get a fair trial. I don't necessarily believe he deserves one, but I do. Because I believe in the Constitution, I believe in the rule of law, and it's all we got. And even though it's not the best system, or even though it's not the greatest system, it still is the best system in the world. The left is trying to destroy that, but at this point in time, it still is the best system in the world. But most of the alleged victims filed reports with police or hospitals at the time of the incidents. Hospitals? Okay. So those of you that may not know, if you get you have a rape victim, child abuse, whatever it may be, these hospitals are supposed to report that to cops right away. Maybe that happened, maybe that didn't. But again, this is the point in my mind that gave me permission to talk about this, even on a podcast, because more than 55% of the victims did file reports. They reported this conduct to either the authorities or to the hospitals at the time. Busby said, we are in the process of collecting with our team assistance, medical records, reports that were made to the authorities. And I've already said that some of the individuals did, in fact, talk to the FBI. So were they on the dole? Were the cops on the dole? Were the hospitals on the dole? We saw that video where Diddy was beating the crap out of his girlfriend in I believe it was either a Hollywood or a Beverly Hills hotel. And he paid them, slipped them, I think it was $50,000. So that they didn't share the video until he was finally busted. And then I think they realized that, man, a liability suit or some type of suit could be coming their way. So they went ahead and released that video. This is absolutely astounding. But it really bothers me. This should bother you. 55%. Again, I'll say it again. 55% of the victims filed reports. There's no way. There's no way. If 55% of the victims filed reports, there's something shady going on. There's no other way to say it. You realize that most women, I believe, that are raped don't report anything. 55% reported on this guy, and he was able to roam the streets, making money, making music, producing music, raping more people allegedly for years, for decades. That's crazy. That is crazy. Victims were, number 7, victims were allegedly oftentimes drugged with a horse tranquilizer. So Busby noted that many, quote unquote, of the victims that sought medical treatment after the alleged incidents occurred were drug tested. And I'm quoting, quote, were drug tested and drugs were found in their system. Weird drugs that you probably never heard of, quote unquote. One in particular, quote, one in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine or trank, which based on our research is known as a horse tranquilizer, according to Busby. Some of the alleged crimes occurred at the private homes of celebrities. Some of this behavior at private residences of people that we all know, he said, adding that the alleged crimes also transpired at hotels that we're all familiar with, also at well-known venues in New York City. More names, he said, will be implicated. Now, that was a week ago. More names have been implicated since. I've not checked the names, so I'm not mentioning them. I can go back and check. Frankly, I think a thorough investigation needs to be done with anybody that hung out with Diddy or attended any single one of these parties. Every single one of these people need to be questioned. And if, in fact, these crimes did occur, because, again, these aren't criminal cases. Perhaps criminal cases will come from these, but these are civil cases. But with all this news being out there, it's going to be hard for P. Diddy to get out or Diddy or whatever the heck he calls himself. It's going to be hard for him to get out because so many people are hearing this. Oh, forgive me. So many people are hearing this now and reading about this. I don't see how this guy gets out of jail except for a miracle. And man, he better have serious protection. Right now, he's in the same jail that Epstein is in, which, just side note, are we ever going to find out about all the people that were chilling with Epstein? Are we going to find out what type of dirt Bill Gates did? I'm just curious. Just asking for a friend, you know what I'm saying? All right, so again, more names will be implicated. The person said the day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs. And again, just because names are names does not mean that they necessarily participated in this, but were they complicit? Did they know? And were they cowards that just stayed silent? The attorney goes on to say, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name are names that will shock you. These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when a particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. He goes on to say, and I'm talking about not just the cowardly, but complicit bystanders, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. He says they know who they are. The lawyer went on to say that he imagines there are a myriad of people who are very nervous. He says, I would expect there are many people out there right now who are desperately searching their memories as they delete their texts and their data. There's no doubt about it in my mind, but it brings me back to the point that I made earlier. This behavior is obviously normative inside of the Hollywood circles, inside of the entertainment industry. And this is why I don't buy into this left-wing morality, this worldly morality. Guys, I'm far from perfect. But I know who sits on the throne in heaven, and that is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I know that I got to live by his standards. I know that I'm going to be judged by his standards and no one else's. I suspect that a lot of people on the left that are all into this LGBTQ stuff, this trans stuff, and not all, but many that are into this stuff, especially when it comes to the trans issues and stuff like that, and the pedophilia. It's because these people are involved, or because they advocate for that. It's because these people are involved. So many of them are involved. It would not shock me. It would not shock me one iota if the vast majority of Hollywood stars are somehow involved in this type of behavior. It would not shock me at all. Besides those that are the conservatives there. So banks, pharmaceutical companies, and hotels will also be implicated inside of the lawsuits or in the lawsuits. So this tells me this isn't criminal. Again, this is civil. This tells me that they're looking for a big payday. All right. So these defendants will not only include individuals, I'm quoting BuzzFeed, but also include corporate entities who ultimately profited off this culture and behavior. He says, I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, and hotels. He talks about, or he says, we know that many of these individuals were paid cash. So some of the victims were paid straight up to just be quiet. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused, or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave, quote unquote. Now that's very specific. That's very specific. So whenever I hear details like this that are very specific, that means that they can prove that happened. Otherwise, they wouldn't mention it. Even in the civil case, they could prove that happened. Otherwise, they wouldn't mention that. The alleged crimes span all the way from 1991 to 2024. Guys, that is 33 years. 33 years. I've heard people say recently, and I'm telling you, I've been totally oblivious to this because I just walked away from culture in the music industry. But I've heard people recently say rumors have been swirling about this for decades. And I'm thinking, if rumors about this have been swirling for decades, how many heathen out there knew this and didn't say anything? You're telling me in a span of 30 years, it took an ex-girlfriend being beat like a punching bag to finally expose this fool? And I don't know, man. I gotta be honest with you. Some of you aren't gonna like what I have to say, but I I'm just as disgusted with the people that stay silent as I am with Diddy. If this is true, I don't. I couldn't. I'm not gonna. I couldn't live with myself if I knew a child was being raped and sexually abused and did nothing about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Well, let me clarify that. Honestly, when it comes to these rappers, these entertainers, you hear all types of stories. I expect for these fools to be freaks, and I know there's a lot of women, probably men out there too, that'll sleep with them, at the drop of a dime that will line up. I expect that. I'm not I'm not saying that I'm proponent of it or anything like that. I'm just saying I know that happens. Everybody knows that happens. There's groupies. We all know that. This is different. This is next level. Number 11, the alleged crimes again span from 91 to 2024. The time frame of the acts complained of is very wide. The conduct spans from the years 91 all the way to 2024. If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than 25 years. And again, 33 years is what it is. Number 12, the group of alleged victim is evenly divided. So apparently Diddy didn't discriminate, nor did anyone else that were participating with him in these acts. Apparently, it's basically broken down 50-50, if you could imagine that. Boys, little girls, or males and females, the report says. So let me be accurate when it comes to that, because that's very important. All right. Let's see here. Last but not least, it says here, actually going back to this one, how many victims and how long it's been going on, or how many, I'm sorry, that it's between males and females. They say, Busby does, our law firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases in civil court. Again, civil court against Sean Diddy Combs. So this isn't a criminal matter, but this could turn into a criminal matter at this point. And honestly, I feel like it could turn into a criminal matter against anybody that didn't report it as well. You should know in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs. And I do believe if there's 120, there's a lot more. All right. The lawsuits will be filed as 120 separate cases. And I think this is, to me, this is one of the things that would keep Diddy in jail for a long time. Not just civilly, but if they decide to charge criminally on any one of these cases, and this could potentially bankrupt them, instead of going for this one major mass lawsuit where you have a class action suit where one or two people, sue him and then they get a big payday. The lawyers get a big payday, and then these other people get pittance. They're taking each and every one of these cases one by one. That means Diddy is going to have to spend a buttload of his money fighting off these allegations from at least 120 separate civil cases. But that's how far and deep this is. Guys, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. Unfortunately, I think this is what occurs in the entertainment industry. And I think there's going to be a lot more to come. But that's a glimpse of Diddy's dirt. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Garth Brooks. You guys may know that there were allegations that were made against country singer, songwriter, Garth Brooks, one of the biggest country acts out there, I believe, ever, if I'm not mistaken. But apparently, or at least allegedly, his makeup artist, it was his wife's makeup artist turned his makeup artist. But she's alleging that Garth Brooks raped her on a couple of occasions. She gave graphic details about that. I don't know if it's true or not. It's one of those things that's not proven. I almost hate mentioning it. But I just believe that a lot of this stuff, particularly in those circles, this type of stuff probably happens all too often. I mean, just look at the guy, Harvey Weinstein, what he was doing and all the friends that he continued to have around Hollywood. And every single one of them, I guarantee you, knew it. Every single one of these people that were around that man knew it. But you're chasing a dream, you're chasing a paycheck, and a great big paycheck and opportunity. And, sadly, that guy took advantage of that and intimidated people by the power that he had in Hollywood and the power that he had controlling their careers. So this stuff happens, and we know it. Guys, I appreciate you listening to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please feel free to subscribe to the Carl Jackson Show wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble, por favor. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good, and God bless you.